It's Gather Round, the footy festival to end all festivals over there in Adelaide this weekend. And the footy is going to be gorgeous like a Pinot Grigio from the Barossa Valley. And you know what? It's all kicking off tonight, Thursday, April 10, Adelaide versus the Geelong Cats at the Adelaide Oval, 7:10 p.m. You couldn't ask for a better game to kick off the Festival of Footy. And let's be honest, both these teams are in pretty good nick as we start to move into the season itself. Now, the Adelaide Crows, what a cracking game last week against Gold Coast. Unfortunate they didn't get the win, but hey, they would have taken a lot out of that game. And Geelong, they did play, obviously, Melbourne, which you really can't say much about my boys at the moment. They're absolutely putrid. So when I put these two teams together, I think it's going to be a really, really good contest. But this is at Adelaide. This is in front of their home crowd. This is in front of 50-odd thousand Adelaideans who are going bonkers for their club, who have promised so much over the last number of years, and they are going to deliver in spades this weekend. They've got a forward line that's hard to be stopped. They've got some beautiful movers through the midfield. Their back line is playing really good football at the moment. And I know Geelong are looking pretty good themselves, but I just think that home ground, home crowd, it's Gather Round. Adelaide won't want to lose this one. And I'll tell you what, this is going to be closer than people think. I'm going no more than 3 goals to the Adelaide Crows in an absolute corker to kick off the 2025 Festival of Footy. Rightio, moving into the Friday night game, another one at the Adelaide Oval, 7:10 p.m. as well. Collingwood versus the Sydney Swans. Both teams going sort of okay at the moment. Collingwood, we've expected them to come out hard. They had the oldest team ever to play AFL, VFL football last weekend. And the Sydney Swans, I tipped them to lose against North, and they just showed me up big time by 10 goals. So I'm putting these both two teams together. Collingwood are playing some really good football, but I've got this little bit of a feeling that they've had a couple of injuries from last week. We don't know the teams at this particular moment who's going to be coming in. And I think Sydney showed something last week that we haven't seen probably in the first 4 odd weeks of the season. But going by that, losing Tom Papley is bigger than I think people think. He's going to be out for quite a while with a heel injury. And I think that's going to cause a bit of issues, especially on the bigger ground. And I also think that at this moment in time, because we don't know the teams, Collingwood, I think, have a better overall gel at the moment than Sydney do. So I don't think this game is going to come down to the personnel. I think it's going to come down to, personally, the structures of which teams. Collingwood and McRae have been magnificent over the years. Cox is bringing in his way of doing things. And I don't think it's gelled just yet with City. So I'm going to go with Collingwood in this one, in another close one, by probably no more than 3 goals. And another game to just really get this Festival of Football off to a brilliant start. Right, we're getting into Super Saturday, and this is where things really start to get a little bit interesting. North Melbourne versus the Gold Coast Suns at the Barossa Park, 12:05 p.m. If you haven't seen some of the images of Barossa Park, it looks absolutely magnificent. I tell you what, if I was a local footballer playing out there in front of those crowds, near the vineyards, just in the beautiful Barossa Valley, I would absolutely have torn it up. But you know what? North Melbourne, they're not going to tear this one up against Gold Coast. Gold Coast are going to tear North Melbourne apart. They were just too good last week. They were magnificent against Adelaide, and they really have shown that they've grown under Damien Hardwick's tutelage in 2025 as well too. And I think it's just going to be too strong across the park. I know North will have a good run at this, and don't be surprised if it's going to be tight for maybe a half and a bit. But outside of that, I think Gold Coast will overrun North, probably about 5 or 6 goals. It won't put pressure on Clarkson because they are playing an informed team. But you want to start to see these are the type of games that they really want to get close in. And if they do get close, brilliant. But I just think Gold Coast are going to be too strong across the park for this one. Hey, let's get back to the Adelaide Oval. We've got Carlton versus West Coast. And this is probably the first game of the weekend where you sit back and go, this is not going to be a good one to watch. And they're probably putting it on the best stadium in the country outside of the MCG. Carlton, we know, haven't won. West Coast, we know, haven't won. So somebody's going to get their first win of 2025. And look, let's be honest, it's going to be Carlton. I can't see West Coast winning this one at all. There's nothing about them that makes me sit up and go, yep, they've progressed, or they've got a lot to show for this particular year. And I think Carlton, look, as long as they can put in an effort after halftime, they're a massive chance to take this one out. And I think that they will do so. And they'll do this by 5 or 6 goals. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone, maybe Curnow, maybe Motlop kicks 4 or 5 to probably put a bit of a stamp on this one. Cripps will have a blinder. I think I'm really looking forward to maybe Sam Walsh just opening up a little bit. He's been under a bit of a performance cloud so far in 2025. He hasn't hit his straps. And this is the type of game that can probably play himself into form as well too. I'd also like to see Harley Reid get a bit of form as well, because he's been a lot lower than he was in 2024. So I think the West Coast Eagles will still remain winless, and Carlton, they'll have a cracking win. Like I said, probably 5-6 goals, but it's not the best game to kick off Adelaide Oval Super Saturday. Rightio, let's go back to Norwood Oval. What a cracker this is going to be. Western Bulldogs versus the Brisbane Lions at 3:45 p.m. Doggies have been playing great footy. If you consider all the injuries that they've got, we're talking about Bontempelli, we're talking about Waitman, no Jamari Ugle-Hagan. They have been in really good form. And the Brisbane Lions, they've started to kick things in a little bit over the last couple of weeks. I still don't think they're at their 2025 limits. And I reckon this could almost be the game of the round. I'm really excited. A completely neutral venue for these two teams. And so if I had to sit back and think, well, who would I take? Who do I trust more? I think I'm going with Brisbane. And the only reason is I think they've got a lot more superstars evenly working across the ground. I know that the Doggies have got Sam Darcy. You'd almost say he's the most informed player in the AFL right now. But I think there's just a little bit too much weight on his shoulders. And I think Harris Andrews will be able to, I won't say contain him, but hold him a lot more accountable than he has over the last number of weeks as well too. But the two midfields will be going against each other. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Brisbane forward line against Jones, against Rory Lobb are going to be able to do. But I think that they'll be able to take this one out. I think they'll win this by probably 2 goals at the most. This will be a really tight game. This will be the game to watch on Super Saturday. It's going to be an absolute corker. Rightio. Talking about a game which I'm massively have a massive vested interest in. Obviously, it's Melbourne versus the Bombers, 7:05 p.m. at the Adelaide Oval. I think this is going to be a game that will be a lot closer than people think, but probably for the wrong reasons. I think it's going to be an absolute error fest. On paper, you would say the Melbourne Demons have the better team, but they just cannot connect at the moment. It's like the AC and the DC are just like this at the moment, and it's just not getting any connection. It's like, I'm putting the super swipes on Tinder and nobody's willing to come back at me. And it makes it very, very frustrating because I've got so much to offer, but I just cannot get any connection. I can't gel with each other. And if you looked at their skills last week, it wasn't too flash. And Essendon, they've got a win for the year. They're sitting on top, so you have to put them as favourites. And you know what? I reckon this one's going to be a draw, because both teams actually don't deserve to win at all at this moment in time. And this is going to be the first draw, I'm picking it, the first draw for 2025. It will be at the Adelaide Oval. I'll probably see it being back and forth throughout the entire game. I reckon Petrarca and Oliver versus Merritt versus Martin versus I've just gone blank on both these teams. That's how unforgettable they've been so far this year. I think this is going to be back and forth. Melbourne supporters will be happy if they get some sort of clear message. Here's the thing, though. If they have another loss and put some 0-5, the pressure will start to mount, because they're not going to sack McWalter, especially if Carlton gets their first win of the year. Melbourne being second last and their first draft pick in Essendon's hands for the 2025 draft. The serious questions, the real questions, and the demand is going to be asked, not from the supporters, not just from the media, but from within the club itself. So I'm going for a draw because these two teams don't deserve to win anything. Let's be honest. Rightio. Richmond versus Fremantle at Barossa Park. And that is also going to be at 7:05 p.m. Another cracking game under lights out there at the Barossa Valley. Look, Richmond, they've probably been a bit more spirited. They've shown more spirit than Melbourne, Essendon, Carlton, West Coast Eagles so far this year, considering all the draft picks that they've brought in. But I'm definitely going to have to go with the Fremantle Dockers. They showed a bit of form last week. They got a bit of zhuzh back, a bit more lead in their pencil, which was really, really good to see. And I just think they're going to be way too strong for a Richmond outfit, which will have a real crack under Uzo. They're starting to get a bit of feeling there. We don't know if Bolter's going to be in or out. That's yet to be seen at this stage. I prefer that he doesn't play. I just think the optics of it aren't that great. And the AFL don't need to have another little thing like this sitting under their banner. I know that he served his in-club suspension, but that was a bit of a farce. Banning him for 6 games, but 2 of those being pre-seasons. Doesn't sit well with me at all. So Fremantle will win this one. I reckon Shai Bolton will get off the chain a little bit. I reckon Tracy down forward will be a miss will get on the end of it. Luke Jackson will have an absolute ball against Nankervis, and I just think that they're going to be way too strong. I'm probably picking 6 or 7 goals for the Fremantle Dockers. Right, 2 games to go because we have got 9 games this weekend because it is gather round. We've got the Saints versus the Giants at Norwood Oval on Super Sunday, April 13th. What can you say about the Saints? I am loving everything that they have done so far. They've won 8 out of their last 11 games, the Saints. And I think that's something that a lot of people forget, that end of 2024 was really encouraging. And what they've done so far in 2025 has been really, really exceptional as well. I like the way they've been moving together. They've brought in a bit of youth. They've brought in a bit of experience. Jack McRae on the wing has been absolutely magnificent. I love what Snags Higgins is doing down there in the forward line. He's probably the best in-form small forward in the league as well too. Up against a GWS who pretty much have one of those midfields that you can absolutely dream about. They've got a forward line that's going to be hard to stop. And I really think that they're going to take this one out, probably by about 4 or 5 goals, but it will be a tight contest for a majority of it. But they'll just keep their nose in front and they will kick away. They've got Hogan up forward. I think an interesting stat is that Jesse Hogan has kicked almost as many goals as Melbourne has kicked for the entire year. That's how embarrassing it's been. Or even last week, he kicked more than the entire Melbourne team did last week. So he kicked 9, Melbourne kicked 6. Not good to see, but GWS, they are just going to be way too strong. And with Finn Callaghan absolutely tearing up in the middle, Toby Green getting his hands on a lot more, Canelio doing his thing, I'm just really excited for what GWS are going to do, and they're going to be one of the powerhouses throughout the year as well too. Now, the game, the flying high game, the buzz, the 747, we got the power versus the Hawks to finish off the round. This is an absolute farce in the way this game is being marketed, for the simple fact that if you remember last year that the AFL fined Ken Hinkley $20,000 for his aeroplane antics, and then they're promoting this game to finish off gather round as well too. And if any of the players do a bit of a plane like this or give it back, I'm tipping they're not going to cop it. So I think they should give his money back. But you know what the AFL are going to do? They're not going to do it because why would they? They don't want to be seen in turning face. Out this, I will say Hawthorn will win this one and win this probably by a couple of goals. I think this will be a little bit tighter than people think. I know Hawthorn have been playing great footy, but with Will Day out, that is a massive loss because he's been probably one of their most informed throughout the entire 2025 season. Port Adelaide did show a little bit last week. Yes, they did lose, but this is the game that I reckon Kenny has been getting their boys ready for, to say, hey, listen, we're not going to look like flogs in front of our supporters. We're not going to look like flogs in front of the whole AFL community. And I want to smash this team for how they've been treating us over the last 12 months, and the reception that I copped and you copped for knocking them out of the finals last year. We want to embarrass them and show them, yes, you are at the top of the ladder, but when it comes to the crunch, you can't handle us. And so I still think Hawthorn are going to win, but I reckon by about a couple of goals. This will be tighter than I think. Georgiades versus Chol, that's going to be the power forwards. You're going to have the midfields. Rosie needs to step up a little bit. And I think this is the game the captain is going to absolutely do it in as well too. But I'm really excited for this one. It's going to be 2 goals because it is the festival of footy. It is lace out. It is your tips for gather round. I'm Peps, the 377 game superstar of the East Keilor Football Club, now retired. But more importantly, I want to say thank you for watching my tips for gather round 2025. And do me a favour, 87% of my viewers aren't subscribed to the channel. So it would mean a lot if you could just hit the subscribe button. It just means that we can get bigger, we can produce more content and produce our tips for you every single week, because it's how you want your gather round, your AFL 2025 tips, lace out style. Have a great weekend. If you're there at gather round, have a safe weekend, and more importantly, hope your team wins. See you on Monday with J-Dog.